The idea that we would cut off military aid to an ally, our only true ally in the entire region, is absolutely preposterous. It's just beyond my comprehension anyone would do that.
Bit of a look back there in 2004. So that was President Biden, in 2019. And here he is now on the issue of aid to Israel.
I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem.
So in a moment, Pete Hegseth joins me here on set. But first, to Florida Congressman Corey Mills, who calls that a quid pro quo. And hours ago, he filed an article of impeachment against the president. The White House says it is acting consistently with the law. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee and an Army combat veteran. Congressman Mills, good to have you with us today. Thanks for being here. So obviously, that's a major step. It remains to be seen how much support there will be for it. But just in terms of what you put out there, explain what you believe is the quid pro quo argument in this impeachment article.
Well, it's really no different. If you go back to what President Biden had tweeted out previously, he said that withholding congressionally appropriated aid for a return of a political gain is in some way a quid pro quo, and that President Trump should be impeached with regards to Ukraine. Now, I'm going to go ahead and preface this by saying 98% of the language that is in my impeachment articles was actually drafted by Representative Jerry Nadler, who I hope will support this, given the fact that they set the precedents with their own words. But the reality is that when you're trying to withhold humanitarian or any type of congressional appropriated aid for the purpose of political gain, which he does look at political gain because he wants to win Michigan, he wants to pander to the radical left. And think about what he's done here. He utilized and pulled the wool over our eyes. He released aid to go into Gaza, which fell into the hands of Hamas. He withholds aid to Israel and its ability for defense and to take out Hamas from their radical extremism that's going on. And a day prior to this, Martha, a day prior, he signs a waiver to bypass sanctions to send weapons to Lebanon and to send it to Qatar, two of the most anti-Israeli nations. And not to mention that Lebanon has been actually launching attacks with Hezbollah from Hassan Nasrallah. So this is a clear violation. He has multiple that he has committed. One is the take care clause that he violated with not enforcing the border laws that are down there. The other is the separation of power that he violated when he continued to supersede what SCOTUS's ruling was with regards to funding for the college bailout. And now with the quid pro quo, it should be quid pro Joe.
So Mike Pence disagrees with you on this. He says this is totally unacceptable. I'm old enough to remember when Democrats impeached another president for supposedly withholding foreign aid that had been approved by Congress. Stop the threats, Joe. America stands with Israel. Your thoughts on that?
Well, when I start concerning myself with what Mike Pence has to say, I'll stop running for Congress.
All right. I mean, he actually is talking about the withholding of the aid, not about your impeachment. I just want to be clear there. So, you know, a lot of people make the Reagan comparison. And in 1981, he delayed a shipment of U.S. F-16 fighter bombers to Israel in an effort to restrain what the Secretary of State Al Haig at the time called an escalating cycle of violence in the Middle East. And don't you think that the president would say, the reason that I'm holding back on this is because I want to protect the people in the Palestinian territory and I want to cool things off?
Well, I think that that's actually the opposite of what he's trying to do, because he's continuing to try and put aid into Gaza that's falling into the hands of Hamas, who's now selling that aid to the Palestinian people in need to help to fund a potential counteroffensive. Not to mention the fact that when the aid package went through for the supplemental, he actually knew very well what the aid package included, where it would actually be funding, and what articles and materials that would be going in. So he knew very well what the battle strategy was, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was very clear that they would continue to go into Rafah and to eliminate Hamas. And so his idea of, not knowing or saying that he's trying to withhold it for other types of reasoning is just not sound, and it's not justified whenever you look at what he already knew.
How much support do you have among your colleagues in the House?
I have quite a few that's supporting this articles of impeachment, as well as for helping me to strengthen them with other language. We have filed it right now. We're hoping that it'll be brought to the floor. We know that there will be a motion to table vote that's on there, but I'm hopeful that my colleagues will join me in holding accountability for once and not just talking about it. If we're truly going to be the governing Republican Party in the House, then let's start acting like it.
Well, interesting to see what your Democrat colleagues think about it, having gone through the impeachment process with former President Trump on Ukraine and the parallels that you point out there. Corey Mills, thank you very much, Congressman from Florida. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Martha.